In today's show, we discuss how far should science go with human and animal crossbreed experiments.
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasula, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello, my friend. Once again, I hope you are keeping safe and well.
Yeah, what the hell? Yeah, I guess.
Oh, dear. I'm not going to ask you to say hi to our audience because you don't really like it, but I'm going to say hi. Hello, audience. Welcome to the show once again.
Boy, you really know how to suck up to them, don't you?
I do. So today's topic, we discuss how far should science go with these human and animal crossbreed experiments. It's quite a sensitive subject. But Tayo, do you want to kick things off?
Not particularly. I'm
Oh.
happy to. I'll be, I don't have that much to say about it, and I'm actually feeling some trepidation about whether or not we can even have a full show on this, because my views are quite tepid. As you know, I usually have strong views on everything, but on this particular topic, I'm kind of like, meh, what are we gonna do?
Okay, well, that's interesting, because I've got some views on both sides of the fence, so maybe you may land on one or the other after I've expressed a few things. I mean, the word, when you've got any human cells or tissues that have been mixed with any animal, they are now normally called a chimeras. A chimeras. I don't know if I pronounced that rightly, but it's spelled CHIMERA.
Chimera. I don't know about the S.
Maybe it's I, not chi. Chimera. There you go.
Well, you put an S at it. It's like chimeras. I mean, what's the S doing there?
I don't know. That's what I've seen. So maybe it's chimera or chimeras.
No, chimera, I understand, but they. If you're using the plural pronoun, they are chimeras. Then fine.
Are, yes.
Right. I'm with you now.
These are called, yes. Okay. And the thing is, human beings as a whole, we can't seem to stomach the idea of this happening. I mean, to a point.
Well, have you seen some images of the imaginations of what comes out of it?
Well, this is it.
I mean, it's fictional, but it's pretty horrifying. Well, I mean, I say I don't have strong feelings, but that's because I don't have strong feelings about mixing genes of different animals and getting weird new animals.
Well, this is the thing, you see. This is the thing. This is the misconception with the whole thing, because there are, let's not beat about the bush, there are some rogue scientists who are, literally they are wanting to mix human and animals and seeing what comes out. And obviously ethically that does not sit right with the majority of people. We just don't like it. However, there are a lot of programs at the moment where they're not trying to harm the animal, but they are looking at perhaps growing organs on the animal. So the animal is bred to produce organs for humans, but the animal is not harmed. It's just a host, similar to where we have, I mean, okay, not quite the same, but a similar where you have an individual where a couple can't have children, so they get somebody, a surrogate, who produces the child for them and gives it to them. So the animal is effectively producing an organ, of which there are few in circulation, in supply. And so that humans can then have these organs and use them for people who've been disabled, people who've had been damaged in a fire or an accident, and so that they can get organs which are not rejected by the body, because that's the biggest problem. When someone has suffered an injury, they've had a situation, life-threatening injuries, they've lost limbs, they've lost parts of their body. Reconstructive surgery relies on some cases, on organs donated from deceased people. Now, the problem with that is you are receiving an organ from another human being. However, your body will reject it because it hasn't come from you. So what's happening at the moment with animals is that some animals are injected with your cells in order to form an item like a kidney or an ear or something like that, which is your cells. The animal is merely hosting it and growing it for you, and then once it's reached a level that the scientists, whatever, can in effect harvest it from the animal, they remove it from the animal, and then it can be transplanted into the human in order for them to have a better quality of life. And the animal isn't killed. The animal is still alive. So it's using the animal's body to grow it. It's strange why we can't use a normal human to grow it, but there seems to be this scientific consensus that that is a way to go. And that's an ethical way of maybe treating animals, because you're not treating them to eat. You're not breeding animals to kill them and eat them, which is something we all do. But instead, you're breeding animals to host organ growth effectively, and then those organs can then be used to aid humans.
I was conducting a naughty experiment to see how long you would go before asking for comments.
Oh. I wanted to explain it quite thoroughly. I thought you would jump in. But
I said, okay, I'm just going to wait, man. I think I got 3.5 minutes, which is quite a good run. I feel you are missing something. Say you won't kill the animal afterwards. If it's a single use or animal, if it's a ape or some sort.
Animal? What do you mean by
well,
that?
single. You wanted the liver. It's grown the liver. You've harvested your liver. For safety's sake, you've got another couple of these animals running around that have got your liver in them. So you don't really need this animal any longer. Why would you keep it alive? It's costing you money. You definitely kill it. There's no point. It's done its job as far as its purpose is in life for you. So you have it knocked off. That's what I think sensible people would do. They're not going to keep paying for an animal they don't have to. Most corporations would go down that route just to lower their costs. Now, if it's a multi-use animal in that you've got a liver, a kidney, a heart, and this and that and the other thing, then obviously you won't kill the animal. But I wonder what happens if you need the heart. What are you going to do? Are you going to keep? Well, how are you going to keep the animal viable if you take its heart? So possibly you won't be able to.
Begs the question: if you've got too many organs.
Yes, I think any animal that's hosting a heart, that's probably a single-use animal. Because once you say, "Give me my heart," the animal is fundamentally useless unless it can keep it to some kind of artificial machine or something. Who knows where science will go eventually?
Yeah.
And I suppose these animals will have to be sedated or kept in conditions where they can't really move, because you don't want them using up the organ. You want them as close to being in stasis as possible.
I don't know about that.
So you could just have them permanently sedated.
It
seems a bit nasty if you think about a chimp or something that looks humanoid.
Yeah. I mean, you
have some empathy for it.
Yeah, you made a very good point early doors, but I think before we actually came on air was the idea. I don't know if you actually said it on air, but the idea of it being some evil looking thing. And this
I didn't mean by evil. They're just the images. Or it was a fake image, by the way, in the end.
Yeah.
But it was supposedly a cross between a human and a retriever, some kind of dog.
Yeah.
And it was really pathetic because it had truly human features, but it was lying the way a dog would lie. It was a female, lying the way a pregnant or the postpartum dog would lie that had puppies, which were breastfeeding. And it was just a horrifying image because it was just so very, very wrong. You know, this human-like creature, but was, you know, with a sad face because it looked like, what have you guys done to me? Sort of look on his face.
Well, see, this is the thing. This is the thing. You see, it's a very emotive subject, funny enough, because a lot of the imagery that we have seen about or perceived that this is how a hybrid human animal would look like have all been images of some horrible beast or some abomination of some creature, when in reality that's not how it would be. But because we've been fed these things over a long period of time, because let's be honest, this has been around since, you know, ancient times, so it's nothing new where we've had depictions of human and animal hybrids. We've had them in mythology in many years. We've had them in Greek images and stuff like that. So they've been around a long time. So we almost automatically feel, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. We don't have any real logic. We don't have facts, but it doesn't feel right. But if I'm
because it feels like we could end up being trapped in some kind of horrible chimera, as you've said, as you've called them, and it would be living hell. I would have thought, well, especially the more human the thing is. I mean, something that's 1% or 2% human is basically not human.
Well, it's not.
But something that's 52% human basically is human.
Well, that's, I tell you, let me just clarify with some figures here. You see, they are already, did you know that humans and mice share 90% DNA?
Okay, so let's not do that, okay? This is an argument that comes from these idiots who do evolution studies.
No.
It's BS. It is BS. It is BS, Tony. I've looked into it for the purposes of studying evolution, and I mean, a serious anti-evolutionist, and they choose what parts of the DNA to count. It's not the entire thing. They just try to match up with certain parts of it. I don't even know under what criteria they choose those parts that they try to match up, and then based on that, they say that there's this coincidence, coincidence of genetic material. It's not the whole thing by any means.
It's not.
It's stretches of the thing. But why these stretches and not the other stretches where would have less than that? Less than that. Why are you talking about these stretches?
Let me explain a couple more things. Okay. This is the mouse. We share 90%.
And like I said, we don't.
Hold on.
No.
A monkey. A monkey, we share 98%.
I've heard this nonsense before, and like I said, it just depends on how you're counting it. It's absolute hogwash. It's just not true.
I'm not sure I can take that from you without you proving it. Because
I don't know how you prove something like this. It depends on how you count it. If you count it one way, you don't get the coincidence. And if you count it the way the scientists are counting it, then you get 98%. So I can't disprove it. It's just what I don't buy the way they're counting it.
Okay.
You've got a
way of not buying it. Doesn't make a fact non-fact though. Just because you don't buy it, it's maybe you
Well, what
I'm
you're saying is a matter of
convinced.
interpretation, but obviously it doesn't make theirs factual either. You just believe people that wear white coats. It's your habit. You believe in authority. You take it like that. I always say that, intelligence comes first, and you can't just outsource intelligence to other people. You've got to exercise your own intelligence. So I'm not prepared to take other people's word for it. The
But
people
with
like
all
me
due
who stand on
respect,
one side of it and say
yeah,
it's not that, it's like if you're going to count genes and say that, sorry, if you're going to, the genetic material and say that we have this number of matches, count everything. And what is the entire matching sequence between us and monkey? You said, did you say apes or monkeys? I can't remember what you said.
well, it's apes, it's the
Okay,
chimpanzee.
so to count between us and apes. What's the whole coincidence
The
of the thing?
2% though is massively different. So that
That's got nothing
shows
to do
our
with it. It's
difference.
not like, again, that's got nothing to do with it. I'm still talking about this so-called 98% match. I mean, if I think I've seen something ridiculous, like if that's the case, we share 50% of, if you count it the way they want to count it, we share 50% of our genes with a banana.
We
Do you
do.
really seriously think
We
yourself as a
share
half banana?
35% with a roundworm.
No, you should share 55% of, is it 50 or 55% of your genes with a banana? Do you
That's
feel
right.
like a half a banana?
It doesn't matter about what I feel.
Do you look like a half a banana?
No, but it doesn't matter. It
Well, the
doesn't matter
functionality,
about
is
the
it the same as
look.
being half a banana? It's because that's not how to count it. If you count it the way the rest of us are saying you should count it, it's like 0.1% or something, which makes a lot more sense.
See, just because it thinks of making sense doesn't make it right either. Do you see what I'm saying? The
No, I
fact
don't see
that
what you're
they,
saying.
you
What
see,
you're
it's
saying is
because
that something that coincides with your intuition and your empirical understanding of the universe, just looking around you, that has a closer match, as opposed to trying to shoehorn something into an argument to support a dead, well, not dead, unfortunately, a dying scientific bias towards evolution.
this
That's all
is
I'm saying.
okay.
That the only reason they're counting it like that is because it supports evolution theory. That's the only reason they're counting that way.
Right. Okay.
That if you count it just like normal human beings, okay, take a string of DNA, stretch it out, take a string of human DNA, stretch it out, and try to match them up side by side, and then start counting where you get matches. If that is how you and I and normal people would do it, that's not
No,
how
what
they
do you
do
mean
it.
normal people? It's not
I
something we can
mean,
just
when you're
pick up
comparing two
from a.
things, if I say compare A to B, there's a normal way of doing it. If I say compare apples to oranges, you probably start out with they're both spherical, they're both fruits.
Yeah.
That's how you just normal way of doing it.
Okay.
You wouldn't start off with
Let
saying
if you want to go
one
down
comes
this
from
road,
Asda and the other comes from Sainsbury's. Then people are like, what the hell kind of match is that?
Well, hold on. Okay. Do you feel that an ape is similar to a human then?
It's certain gross features, of course.
So there's a lot of similarity.
I didn't say a lot. I just said in gross features there is. I know that there's one big argument that the only difference between humans, there's only one difference between us, well, males anyway. There's only one difference between a male human and a male gorilla physiologically. And this was when I was arguing about evolution with somebody online, and he thought he nailed me and said, do you know what it is? And I was like, yeah, I know what it is. So what? Do you know what it is?
Me? I know.
Yeah.
No.
There's only one gross physiological difference between us male humans and male gorillas. The only way you can tell.
Huge difference. Are we talking in the sexual department?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are we bigger or are they bigger?
No, nothing to do with size. Size doesn't matter, guy. Haven't you heard? They've got a baculum and we don't. So they got a bone that gives them an erection. We don't have a bone that gives us an erection, even though we call it a bone now, which is kind of weird.
Interesting.
Yeah. And based on that, he's trying to say, well, based on that, you see, it's obvious that we evolved from the same thing. I'm like, you're just an idiot, my friend, okay? There's no such thing. There's no way you can discriminate between that being something from evolution or that being something that a designer designed. How do you tell that it's definitely from evolution, and not definitely that a designer designed us basically the same way.
Okay. Well, that's a different subject for another day.
Yes,
Let's
it's
just
like
try
my
and stick.
daughter. My daughter rolls her eyes if somebody anywhere near me mentions evolution, and I think you get to the same thing too. Don't ever go. Don't wave a red flag in front of me, man. Don't mention Brexit, and don't mention evolution, and don't mention that horrible Prime Minister Theresa May, upon whom I spit.
I think that could
Those are
be
my
leveled at
triggers.
the current
To use
incumbent.
the
Let's put
kids'
that.
terms nowadays,
Yeah.
you're triggering me, man.
Anyway, let's get back onto this. I mean, you with this, the DNA, the reason why we're able to use mice in experiments is because of their similarity to humans, and it's because of the sharing of, I mean, you want to argue about the percentage. It's a similarity. Let's leave it there. Now,
some parts of their genome are quite like some parts of ours. And in those parts, this is how they actually put it. I believe I read, I don't know if I read the entire paper or part of an abstract or the abstract. I don't think I read the paper, but they said where we match, and that was what I think offended me. Where we match, there is X percentage of
DNA
coincidence.
Oh.
But you've just said where we match.
Oh, okay.
So this is the thing. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, yeah, obviously, because you yourself have said where we match, you've already pre-selected. So I think that was what got me, and that's what gets other people too. And yes, okay. So you look at why am I going like this? So there are places in genes where we match, and that enables us to use these animals for experiments which in some way require our genetic material spliced into them, I suppose you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get that. And I have no problem with it, but I don't know why I don't have a problem with it. I guess it just depends on what the outcome of this gene splicing thing is. If it's fundamentally a mouse and you give it a human eye, it will look weird, but it's fundamentally a mouse, and that doesn't bother me. But if it looks fundamentally human, but it's got whiskers and a tail and other things, then it seems to me that what you've done is you've actually messed up a human being's life. And that's what I would find offensive. So if it's fundamentally a creature, I don't care. Do you understand?
Okay. Yes. We've got this perception in our head, and I don't know whether it's Hollywood film or whatever we've been brought up with it, where if you mix two together, you get some real hybrid that is evil. I mean, a load of people have watched, a lot of people have seen The Fly, the horror film The Fly, right? And that has really affected people that somehow, it has, because we have this idea of hybrid creatures mixing with humans will be some abomination. I've already said it. And it's something that disgusts us. So we don't even
I watched The Fly when I was young.
Yeah.
And maybe I shouldn't have watched it when I was that young.
Indeed.
I'm not sure. I think I was pre-teen.
Yeah.
And what really got me was the last shot of the film.
Are you talking about the original version?
Oh yes, of course.
Oh,
You know how old I am. The last shot of the film, the film, where the spider is approaching the body of the fly. Sorry?
Vincent Price. Is it Vincent Price's face on the fly or something? I saw.
I don't remember who the actor was. I was too busy being horrified. And it was, pathetic. It was screaming, no. And that really got me. And it's like, gosh. But that's not what's bothering me at all. What's bothering me is this. I wouldn't mind I don't know what I'd look like, and people probably wouldn't want to look at me. I really wouldn't mind having the eyes of an eagle, because that's a fantastic eyesight, man. Imagine being able to spot a mouse a quarter of a mile away, having eyesight that sharp. I'd love that. I'd love to have the olfactory senses. I wouldn't want the nose. I wouldn't want the facial feature, but I'd love to have the olfactory senses of a bear. Bears can smell food through cans, inside a sealed can.
Mm-hmm.
They can smell what's inside a sealed can. Their nose is that sharp.
Yeah.
It is said that they can smell a woman on her period from a mile away. Now, that bit is probably unfortunate. I don't think I want, because when you think about all the unwashed masses in a train, people who haven't had a shower in days, that could be horrific. Yeah, you're stuck on the London Underground with a bunch of people like that.
Saying that, if we digressed on one of the best, the animals with the best sense is a shark, isn't it? It can sense
one drop of blood inside 1 cubic mile of water or something. Do you know what? I've always thought that was BS. I mean, you think about, first of all, how does one drop disperse in a cubic mile of water? Seriously, what you drop, what concentration are we talking about? And then how do they know that? What experiment was that? How do you construct an experiment such that a shark can get to, I mean, no, people say these things, and you just, sometimes you want to take I don't know what you want to take, some kind of weapon, and take it around and express yourself freely upon people and say, before you say things like that next time, think about it, boom. Okay. But I suppose people will say I was going too far, being far too tetchy. Yeah. But this is okay. If not that, then 5 lashes of the cane for talking nonsense in public, something like that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you want to know how they come to that.
Yeah. How? Just think about it. Think about how dilute that is.
Yes.
How do you know that it can smell it?
But you're now comparing it to an unknown. The shark seems to know this because the shark turns up when there's an animal that's hurt, an animal that's in distress, it's bleeding. The shark just turns up. So there must be countless experiments done where this has happened. So that's where this comes from. It wouldn't have just been picked out of the air.
But it wouldn't have been one drop, though, would it? It'd be, how do you know it's one drop?
Well, probably a couple of drops, but we're not talking.
Well, more than drops. I mean, if it's a creature in distress, then what is it? A gushing vein?
I don't know.
Half chewed up, propeller chewed up seal.
There's been examples of that where an animal's fallen in water whilst being on land, but inadvertently slipped on a cliff or whatever and ended up in the water. But as it fell, it's cut itself. Now you're right, it probably is a bit more significant than just a drop. But the fact that then more than one shark turns up and they're not normally in that particular area or harbor or whatever it may be, tends to sort of point to the fact they must have picked that up somehow. So,
let's be scientific. Then let's be scientific and start talking about what kind of concentrations of blood it would have been. I'm happy to have that conversation. How far away is this idea of one drop in a cubic mile?
Okay, maybe that was for effect, but maybe it's several drops, but it's still pretty.
I don't even like cubic mile. That's a lot, man.
Okay, your argument where you came up and said about the bear smelling something in a can.
Yeah, there was a very silly experiment. I don't know about silly, but there was a silly idea, in my opinion, that we're going to use bears to try to figure out, to try to detect cocaine and other things. This was the U.S. customs folk, and because they realized, the bears were very sensitive noses. Right. And could they be trained to detect drugs and other things? I mean, they beat bloodhounds, hands down.
Wow.
Yeah, but these are full-grown, powerful, very, very powerful creatures who don't want to be stuck in an office all day, man. So when they get
They're not very
tetchy,
domesticated.
they
are
get
they?
even tetchier than Ty on a bad day. So
No, no, no. I must
very
correct you
quickly.
now. That's physically impossible. I'm sorry. Now we're discussing the absurd. I'm sorry. There's nothing that's worse than Techi Teo. I mean, look, there's a catchphrase there.
That's terrible.
Alliteration, yes, indeed. Right, and let me get back onto this. I mean, okay,
So there were two different kinds of experiments there, pal. There's one that was, a proper thing because people wanted to do something with these bears, and that's how they know, and that's how they figured it out. But it didn't go ahead because you can't put it on a leash and sort of walk it past the and like that, walk it past.
Well, it certainly dissuade drug smugglers.
Well, oh wow, yeah. Anyone who fails a drug test will be fed to the bears.
Yeah, that would seriously.
The beating hearts liberals would be out there with their protest marches and everything, saying that's inhuman.
Anyway, we say that this crossbreeding, it sounds abhorrent, doesn't it?
Not really. Some part of it I'd love, because that's how we got onto the topic. Okay. I'd love to have the eyes of an eagle.
All right.
But the heart of a pig, isn't the heart of a pig more efficient than ours?
It is.
Or the female pig or something.
Female pig. But the fact is that they do that now, where the pig will grow a human heart, and it's more for transplant. Obviously, in that.
Oh yeah, I don't want a human heart grown in a pig. I want a pig heart.
Oh well, no, they have done that, where they haven't used the whole pig heart, but they have used valves from a pig heart
to repair
valves in human heart. I actually have a friend who has exactly that. They had a choice of having a mechanical what's it called, valve, yes, or a pig's valve, and the difference between the two was the mechanical valve needed a whole host of drugs in order for the body not to reject it. The pig one also needed drugs, but only a couple, and it lasts a lot longer than the mechanical one. So he chose the pig valve. So he still had drugs in order not to reject it, because it wasn't his cells in the pig. It was an actual donor pig. But
imagine if they could splicing his genes into a pig.
Well,
that
is what they do
that
now.
Heart thing, be basically
his heart,
and then his body wouldn't reject it. He wouldn't need any drugs whatsoever.
Indeed, exactly, and that's the next phase, because the first.
So what's wrong with that? What's the horrific thing about that? I think that's fine.
There isn't. It isn't, and that is for aiding where there's a lot of organs that are, like I said at the start, a lot of organs are in short supply. So the animals become the host for you. So you donate your cells. Your cells are then put on the animal to form this part of your body that you're lacking or is failing or whatever, like a kidney, a heart, all sorts of things. So there are these hybrid experiments, but they're not in the manner that we've been brought up to perceive them to be. They're more as a host for your cells in order for that animal to produce an organ which you are, is failing, or you're dying, or you're in, and you don't have this rejection because it's your cells. I mean, there are other animals, by the way, that have been crossbred. You know this, don't you? Mules have been around for a while, and a mule is a male donkey and a female horse. So that's been around a while. And recently we've got others like a liger.
Ligers, lions and tigers,
a tigon, a zonkey. Sounds like a made-up word, but that's a zebra and a donkey.
A zebra and
a geek.
Did you say zebra or just a zebra?
I said zebra. Did I not?
I thought you said zebra. Okay.
Oh, maybe a zebra. I said zebra.
Americans have gotten to you, man.
Oh, dear. You know what? I'll tell you a funny story. That happened to me in America. I was very young.
What happened to you in America?
I had to go to America, and I was working there, and I was underneath a desk fitting some cabling, and this. Sorry, I'm digressing, but this.
No, not
This
that. I'm just worried. Is this because it's beginning to sound kind of sexual?
no. Well,
Oh, okay.
this American girl. This was in Kansas.
Wait. You were under the desk, and then this American girl. Did you say?
Yeah.
Are you sure this
It
is
was in
okay
a
for?
cinema. I was
That's even worse,
installing.
pal. Surely.
No. I was installing a network cable. I was a network engineer in my youth. So I was in the States working there, and I was in Kansas, and I was installing this network cable in a cinema. And the word got round that I was from England. And so these girls came and asked me and said, are you from England? And I went, yes, I am. Say something in English. And they were all excited.
Say something in English.
Yeah. So I said, what do you want me to say? And they said, say zebra. And I said, okay, zebra. and they all laughed and went, no, say it in English. So I said, okay, zebra. And they were, ha, ha, ha. And it all became a big funny thing. So that word now stuck with me. Hence, I now say zebra when I really should say
zebra. Yes, because we went to school.
Indeed. But anyway, going back, a zonkey is a zebra with a donkey.
And a donkey.
Yeah, I didn't hear this one before. A geep.
Oh.
That's a goat and a sheep. It's called a geep.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And another one, I thought this was made up completely, but a beefalo.
Oh, a cow and a buffalo.
A cow and a buffalo. Now, what
is that the stupidly muscular one that looks like you've been feeding the cow steroids?
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah. I mean,
it looks like one of those guys who's been in the gym for too long. And what's only that this is a cow. Yeah, and you look at it and go, oh, this is so very wrong, man. I don't even want to eat this, okay? I just feel sorry for it. Just like, dude, just stop with the steroids, man.
No. It is
it looks terrible.
Yeah. It's because, I mean, a lot of these actually animals, they've gone to where they've mixed them together and they've actually gone to birth. So normally when they do a lot of these hybrid experiments where they have to give the cells to an animal, it's very, very short-lived. There's laws around the world which stipulate it cannot go past 21 or 28 days, I think it is. So very, very early, it's terminated and destroyed. But when you're mixing animal and animal, that rule doesn't apply. Hence why these animals have been mixed together in hybrid, and an offspring has been produced of which is very different to both the mum and dad. However, a lot of them are in fact sterile. So it seems that once the offspring has been born, it is a one-off. You'd have to repeat the experiment in order to get it to go again. So it's very strange how that works. But there is another problem here as well. We as humans have this, I mean, there's a widespread feeling that humans have a soul, okay? Or whatever you want to believe, what makes us human. And animals, most people believe, don't. So if we're mixing our DNA with an animal, it leaves this weird, hold on, we're really messing with something here that really we shouldn't. And if say for instance, you've now got a pig that has produced an organ for you, will you ever eat a pig again? If you ate pigs, would you enjoy bacon if you ate bacon? Do you see what I mean? I
don't think I'd mind.
You would?
I wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems
okay to me.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems rather strange if that's the case. I don't know. But there's a famous bioengineer. I've got to mention his name. His name's Zev Kartner, and he's the co-director and research coordinator of the Center for Cellular Construction at the University of California, San Francisco. And he said the best bioreactor for tissues and organs for humans, the best, absolutely the best, is another human.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the way that they're now looking at is, let's leave animals alone. There's too much angst about mixing human and animal DNA. Let's try and avoid that, because obviously people are associated with animals. We love them. We don't want to harm them, blah, blah, blah. So in that case, then, how does this figure? Why not clone you
Mhm.
and take this is the way that he was suggesting. If you don't want to use animals for this process, imagine growing a copy of you. However, that human version of you has the brain removed early doors and is kept alive using scientific techniques. And that then clone of you is growing your organs that you may need in later life. And because it's not got a brain, even though it's a clone of you, it's not you. Now, this is starting to get to the reaches of Frankenstein, because the ethics involved in this is something personally I would never ever agree with, and I dare say the majority of society wouldn't agree with either. How would you feel, our listeners, and you, Teo, in particular, what would you think if they could clone you? So you'd have another version of you, a baby of you, but with no brain, but growing organs inside, of which you, as an older person, could utilize should you need to.
I don't know if I'd like that a lot, because I'd actually rather just talk to another Tayo. I'd prefer, rather than living forever, living for longer, I'd rather just have another Tayo who, as long as it's really like me in every way, shape, and form, and very, very me, I think he and I would have a whale of a time together. Because, you know, having to, being, if you like, forced to have dealings with the rest of you, something I find quite unsatisfactory, to be honest. I think the only way I can get a decent conversation, a decent human being, is to have another Tyler. So if I could clone me, it's like leave the guy's brain in there and speed it up, and he and I are going to be best of friends, man.
How do you know? He can annoy the hell out of you. You'll see him,
not
you'll
if it's
have a
not if
chat
it's
and go, do you know what? That Tayo, he's ignorant.
It's
he's
a real
horrible.
asshole, isn't he? Turns out I'm an asshole. Turns out all this time it was me. Oh my God, they were right. It's me. That would be terrible, Tony. To find out that, you know, in the end it was you. I have enough faith in myself to know it's not it's not me, guy.
No, it's not you. I still love you. Don't worry.
Well, there you go. You see, there you go.
I've become an alcoholic since doing this show, but I still love you. Oh, I mean, that funny you should say that. That's something that twins have. I mean, we could ask identical twins, because they share.
I feel sorry for them.
Well, they share many traits, so there is that. And
the close ones are okay, but the ones who aren't close, I don't know how that works. And that one haunting story is the story of that the evil twin, the Chinese girl. Remember her? I think I don't know if our audience know.
No, please say it again.
Well, it's an American case of horrific. This twins, one very loving and one completely psychopathic.
Yeah.
And the psychopathic twin tried to kill her parents, wasn't it? They were trying to kill her, try to kill the parents and blame it on the loving twin.
Yeah.
And she was caught. And just think, what kind of betrayal is that?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Clearly she had something not right with her.
Very,
mentally.
very wrong.
Yeah. I mean, okay, we're digressing ever slightly here, but the idea of the clone producing organs for you, it's where there's some people in society who feel the need to live forever or as long as possible. So this is something that when their organs are failing, if they had the opportunity to have those replaced without any rejection, because they're your own organs effectively, they would take that on board. But we're now getting to, like I said, the ethics. We're creating Frankenstein monsters here. We've now gone beyond.
Well, how long would it take to grow the body?
Because a full body will take the same time frame as it does now.
Can you really? I mean, that means when you're like in your early 20s, you'd have to pay for this, so that by the time you were in your 40s, this other body would be ready.
Well, they can grow organs quicker than that,
rather than the whole body. If you've got a genetic malfunction or dysfunction, wouldn't that be replicated in your clone?
Well, there is that risk, of course, yes.
So what would be the point?
Well, that's only as a hedging your bets, isn't it? You're trying to create a clone of yourself to host organs for you and it be your donor. But then what's to stop you just having one? What if you wanted several just to hedge your bets? I mean,
well, if I know anything about cost, only the richest would be able to afford that sort of thing.
But it to me, that is disgusting. It's a horrible thing. And we need to be humble as humans and understand that, look, when your body starts to break down, medicine will do its best to try and help, but you've reached your time, friend. It's time to say goodbye. Now, what you were saying about your twin, it would be great to have a clone of me and have a conversation. Well, you could do that using a virtual clone now. We're talking IT. You could create a Tayo clone, sort of like an Android type thing. And, we're not far away of getting something which is not Tayo in conversation, but looks like you, acts a little like you, and obviously the verbal side of it will start to develop as that improves. But we're not far away from having avatars and robots that will look like us and can attend events on our behalf. Say we're not mobile. We could have an avatar. Yeah, you could have an avatar attend an event, but its eyes, you could see through its eyes. So it's away from you. So you can still enjoy the event remotely, where your avatar or robot or whatever it may be is representing you there. And that's something that science is looking at and seeing.
Not quite the same.
Not quite the same, no. Where you're not actually hybriding parts of humans onto animals, but it's another way of doing it where it's increasing your longevity if you've got to the point where physically you can't move around, you can't.
I don't even know why we need to be doing this. I mean, it's fun if you're a scientist, I imagine, to splice things into things and see what happens. But surely, in the end, they will have the biological equivalent of a 3D printer, wouldn't they? Just be able to clone virtually anything in a vat of some sort, different size vats for different type of shapes and sizes of organs. So if you needed an entire liver, which is quite large, if you're going to this type of event. So I think that's probably where, I hope that's where they end up going, that we don't really need a living being of any sort. We can just do it in a vat.
Well, that would be better, because then you're not harming any animals or anyone else and things like that. That would make more sense, and that's a better way to go down, because you've still got the ethics question because you're creating organs, but you're not going where you're affecting another animal or creature.
Do you know who doesn't care about ethics? The military.
No, I know.
And if there's a serious push towards creating chimeras, I'm sure it's going to come from the military.
Well, funny because you should say that. Yeah,
I'm sure, starting with, well, I've just found out that the American workforce for the first time has become majority female led now, for the first time in well, I don't know about human history because we can't say that, can we? But in known history, the American workforce is now got a majority females. And I think that they probably won't go down that militaristic route, because I don't think that being led by females, they will be able to fight like men. They will depend on more and more on technology and more on remote fighting, fighting at a distance, which is why the very beloved of drones and being able to deploy drones, continents away, whilst they're comfortable and safe in rooms in America. It's as somebody said, air-conditioned rooms on Air Force bases in America, and you're bombing people in Afghanistan and Iraq. So the problem with that is you can destroy, but you can't win. Isn't that weird? You can destroy the other nation, but you can't beat it. And this is what happened in Afghanistan. They destroyed it, but they couldn't beat the Taliban. And that's what has happened in Iraq. They're pulling out of Iraq. And in a sense, they beat the Iraqi army because it was a standing army. But in another sense, they didn't beat anyone because they're going to have to leave. And the Iraqis are going to have to sort out the mess with the people that they were fighting. So they didn't defeat them. I don't see that you can defeat an enemy unless you've got boots on the ground and you fight mano a mano. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is that I was going to say that you could build a super soldier using this gene splicing thing, make them more intelligent, which is, I think the Israelis are trying to do that, and make them stronger and faster by splicing in elements of stronger and faster creatures than us. The result will be basically human, but not completely human. And then if you had an army of those and then you drop them into Afghanistan, they'll take out the Taliban because they'd be, 20% stronger, 20% faster,
But they'd still have flesh and blood.
They'll still have flesh and blood, and they'll still be, I said, basically human. I mean, maybe people go into the program and you join the American military and then, or whatever, it doesn't have to be America, you join the military and you volunteer for this force, and then you're, if you like, upgraded with these, and a lot of people will a lot of young men would think that sounds fantastic, and they'd want to be part of that, and then they get upgraded, and then they go off and they fight. But would they be human though? You know how humans are. Would we accept them back into human society afterwards? I doubt it very much.
They would only be fighting machines.
Well, being that they were human, I mean, being that they are human, it's not that they were, being that they are human, after the war, when they've returned from their tour of duty and they want to settle in, people will be like, yeah, but you're really part leopard, aren't you? I mean, I don't really want my kids. I don't have kids with you. No matter how irrational that was, because genetically, whatever, you've only messed with, well, it depends. It depends. I can see the arguments, but I just know that humans don't like things that are other. We have a distrust and a dislike of anything that is other. I mean, even racially, we don't like other races. We find it hard. So can you imagine something that's even maybe of a different species? Yeah, that's definitely going to have,
Well, issues. That's a separate question again. That we've got another show coming up about a species beyond our planet. That's something we're going to discuss, but that's for a future show. But just very quickly, I'm mindful of the time. The time has sped through today. There's a Russian biologist who, this was early 1900s, called Ilya Ivanovich Ivanov. And he was really, I know, what a name. I
love Russian names. Ivanov,
yeah.
Ivanov.
But he was literally, he was a biologist, and he tinkered around the edges of what's right and wrong. He literally went off on one. And he
Did
was referred to as in the Russian area as Red Frankenstein.
Uh-oh.
Indeed. And he first went to Africa, and he started his early programs where, he wanted, when he went to Africa, he was literally, he could be classed as a mad scientist, and he literally was, because he was trying to find apes to impregnate with human sperm and go through the full term and see what came out. And he also, what he did, he impregnated females with chimp DNA and sperm in Africa. Exactly. He had no level of morals or ethics at all. His goal was just to produce other things and seeing how it took him. Now, in the end, cut long story short, he did apparently stories of him actually producing ape human children.
Yikes.
I know. And there's some black and white images of these apes, and they look quite disturbing. But even in Russia, when Stalin came to power, even they didn't like this and put paid to this, because even they thought it was something like a horror movie that went too far.
On behalf of the Russians, I love the way you said even they.
Well, okay, but we've heard stories not now, but we've heard stories in the past during communist Russia, its height of Stalin. They obviously did human experiments on humans, but this is now taking it to the next stage where they were actually mixing humans and monkeys and apes in particular to produce a hybrid ape human creature. And they're,
sounds really uncool to me. What's the chap's name again?
The chap was called, you can do some search for him, Ilya Ivanovich Ivanov.
How do you spell that, Ilyanovich?
Ilya is double I-L-Y-A, I think.
Ilya
Ivanovich. Ivanovich Ivanov. So Ivanov again.
Ivanov.
He was not good. So if our listeners are interested as well, he was called the Red Frankenstein because of what he did.
I did say, this is a big aside, by the way. It's a big aside. I did say I love Russian names. One, have you heard of the chap, the author, the Russian author who wrote Scream?
No.
Ivan Kotsynetsov.
No, stop it.
I don't know why some of these childish jokes are really getting to me, man.
You got that in. You got that in.
You got it in. Yes, Ilya Ivanovich Ivanov.
Yes.
If I turn off my search for moderate, I turn it off. Because my image search is always moderate, because there's some really horrific images out there.
Indeed, yeah.
And then I do maybe, I don't know, monkey.
There was a monkey called Oliver the chimpanzee. And yeah.
Oliver,
and he doesn't look right, you can tell.
Doesn't look right.
Yeah. Has that stopped you in your tracks? Have you seen the photos? Our listeners are going to go, oh my goodness, I'm going on Google. Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is.
It stands like a human.
Yeah,
but it has the shape and body of
an ape. And there's one picture of him, and it looks, you can tell it's not an ape, it's a mixed, and it's horrible. And this is the sort of thing that most of us are afraid of. We don't know at what point the line is. And we're scientists, and there's some rogue ones, because not all their aspirations are to do good. There are some dodgy ones out there. And in fact, some are encouraged because they're sponsored to find the limits of
some people who are out there who just shouldn't be allowed out of a cell, really.
Indeed.
It can't be trusted. Be trusted.
Thankfully, he died of in a camp, I think. So he didn't die a normal lauded death. He did die in a camp.
Was this
See,
Stalin?
No, this guy, yeah, under his Stalin's reign, obviously they stopped his funds. They locked
Many
him up.
people didn't make it under
Yeah,
Stalin.
indeed.
Goodness.
Indeed.
I was looking for a film because I wanted to discuss it with you, but I can't remember the name of the film. And I wanted to say there are a whole swathe of, I don't know if swathe as well, a whole bunch of films like this where people are mixing things. You were talking about harvesting organs from clones. I think there's several science fiction movies. I mean, the ultimate, of course, is Soylent Green. That wasn't harvesting. If you haven't watched Soylent Green, don't listen to the next bit. I'll give you 5
I've not
seconds.
seen it, but you can still say it.
Well,
Is this a spoiler for our listeners? Is that
huge?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I can't go ahead then. If even Tony has,
I've not watched it, but I don't mind you saying it. So if our listeners have seen,
okay, so
Soylent
5
Green,
seconds to not listen, and then come back after about a minute. It will take me, or maybe 30 seconds or something.
30 seconds, okay. Give our listeners, if they can. You don't obviously want to encourage our listeners to go away from our great show, but in this instance, if they don't want
just
to,
skip. You don't have to go away. You just fast forward to 30 seconds or something.
Okay.
Well, 5 seconds. Do it.
Yeah.
5, 4. Okay, so Soylent Green had this actor, it doesn't matter now, I can't remember his name, was his last big film. The guy, James Cagney, was his last movie, I believe. And somebody else who I like a lot. Anyway, Charlton Heston was in there too. And there's this thing that you eat, it's called Soylent Green. And there's some kind of secrecy about, where it came from and everything. And that's the reveal in the end, Soylent Green. And then he's like, you crazy bastards. It's people. They were recycling people.
Oh dear.
And I'm really sorry. I think I shouldn't have told you that, because I think I just said, go and watch the movie, because it's a great reveal.
Yeah. But anyway,
that was the ultimate to me in what you're talking about. You're harvesting organs. Hey, you're harvesting everything. You're recycling the entire.
Oh dear. I mean, we're getting close to the end of the show, but I want to end on a quote that Jeff Goldblum said in the Jurassic Park film, which is relevant to this conversation, really. And the scientists who could be respected in their field and whose dedication to find out if something could be done is blinded by the fact they should ask, should it be done? And that's the whole crux of all of this. It's all well and good we could do it, but at what end? What are we descending to by becoming and altering these animals for our benefit? Are we really that desperate to conduct these experiments? For what end? What's the end goal here? Is it worthy of doing it? And most of the time it's not. It's just a whim. It's just a government incurious. Should they really be doing it? For me, no. I don't know if you've got a final thought.
Well, science and moving forward and the dangers isn't something that should stop us, but it is something that we should keep asking ourselves, should we be doing this? If we keep asking ourselves, should we be doing this, I'm satisfied that we are still striving to maintain a humanity.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It is when we stop asking, should we be doing this, that's when we've probably lost our humanity.
Indeed. And unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.